Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Steven. This is my brother Nathaniel. Together we are the Wingman. Something that I've been encouraging my brother to do for the last year is just to teach people using Photoshop. He has a lot of experience inside of the t-shirt industry. I want him to show that knowledge to our community. I'm going to have him open up Photoshop, show some basics, and then most of the tools that he's using. I'm going to be asking some questions in the beginning to just kind of get people started. We've been talking back and forth, and this is, I don't think, a intro to Photoshop. It's just, if you have some knowledge on Photoshop, this is a good way to think of how to use Photoshop to recreate pieces of art. Am I misspeaking?
No, that's a good intro. I'm a little reluctant to do this just because of how massive of a tool Photoshop is.
I'm the older brother though, so
he's forcing me to do it. Well, there's people in our community that will find this information useful. So I just want to start doing this more. I think the more that I do it, the more comfortable I get with it, the more I'll enjoy doing it. But it just seems like such an overwhelming task to teach somebody Photoshop. And there's so many other great content creators out there that are using it. But Steven keeps telling me, like, it's not specific to our community and it's not specific to what we're doing.
You have a very unique perspective on all of this. And I think you think of art in two different ways, like a quality and a speed. And a lot of the videos that I kind of watch on art, they show you exactly how to do a lot of things, but it's like 30-minute videos, and I'm like, if I was someone trying to make a t-shirt, this is way too much content to consume to be able to create something that I want to put on a t-shirt. I think you make that comparison between high quality art that you would hang up on a wall versus t-shirt art. It's a lot different quality standards, and I think the way that you approach it is very unique. And I want to be able to bring that to the community. I think there's been a lot of times where I've asked you to recreate stuff, and you say, this is going to take 24 hours. And then I go, well, we have 20 minutes. I promised this to somebody. Can you do this? And you have a way of shortcutting a lot of the things. And I don't know enough about Photoshop, so I think I want to be here just to ask questions so that everybody kind of gets in the same mind space or on the same page.
So we'll actually open up Photoshop and jump into this. Like Steven said, I do focus a lot on the speed of how to get things done, so it might not also always be like the most optimized way of doing something, but it will be done in a certain time. Inside of the print-on-demand world, which is mostly what I'm creating for, speed is definitely something to focus on. The faster you can get designs up, the more you can get up, that wider net you can spread. So this is the Photoshop interface. Hopefully you have opened this before, but if not, I'm going to try and do my best to go through this step by step as far as opening up the file type that you will need, making sure it's the right size, and then just showing some very basics of like the most used tools that I have. So up here at the top, and Steven, feel free to stop me at any point if I lose you or if I jump over something. That's why I brought Steven on. He doesn't use Photoshop, and so it'll be good for him just to and ask me those questions of something I might breeze over. But to open up a file or to make a new document, what you're going to do is go up here to File, click on that, and go to New. You can see that I already have a preset for my merch. This will probably be defaulted to just the Photoshop size. And what we're going to do is actually change these options, and then we can save it as a preset, so you won't have to do this every time. You'll just have it preset like I do. So inside of this, we're going to change inches to pixels because Amazon wants us to match the pixel count that they have and not the amount of inches. And so in width, it is 4,500. In height, it is 5,400. So kind of easy to remember, but again, we won't have to type this in every time as long as we save it as a preset.
Is this for all products on merch?
Not for all products. This is just focused on shirts. You can go and look on Amazon, and even when you're uploading, it will tell you the exact pixels you need, but this is where you're going to be typing them in. Go to File, New, this is what you're going to see. This is where you'll be typing those pixels. And I usually change the resolution to 300 from 72, just to make sure my image is crisp. So I can title this, I'll title it Merch 2, but title it whatever you want, and if we save as preset, it's actually, that will ask us for the name again, so we can call that Merch 2, hit OK, and then we'll have that as a preset. I've done that for pop sockets. That is that. Once you hit OK, that will open your document, and now you are, kind of open to run free with Photoshop and use tools and start playing around with this.
What are the most popular tools that you use?
Yeah, so definitely the text tool, you can see that's already what default came up for me. That's probably the last thing I was using. But in this video, I plan on talking about the text tool, the pen tool, and the shape tool. And then the pointer tool up here is really useful just for... So we'll start with text. It's pretty basic. This menu over here to your left is where you're going to be selecting all these different tools. And even some of them, if you right click, these ones with these white arrows on them, if you right click on them, there's even more tools kind of hidden inside this. But we're just going to be focused on the basic text tool. And then up here at the top, you can see that there's a lot of different ways to interact with this tool. So change the font size right here. You can change the way it's aligned and even type of font that you have selected as well. I'm going to be using Impact. That's kind of my go-to font when I start designing, just because it follows my design mantra,
philosophy.
Which is bold, clean, and simple. So I'll just type in something. I know Steven likes his name quite a bit.
Yeah, buddy.
So we'll use Steven's name, I guess.
So my mother gave me that name.
That is the type tool. So if you click somewhere and just type something out, that's where it's going to be. If you want to move it around, if you move on the same type tool, if you move it just out of the way a little bit, you can click and drag that text wherever you want it of the document. It's nice and pink, Steven's favorite color.
Burn.
And there's a few different ways to change the color. If you highlight this up here at the top, there's a little color picker that you can select that, and this will up this menu where you can pick whatever color you want. You type in a bunch of different codes or the hex code for the exact color you want. Switch that to green there for now. So that's the text tool. There's a lot more that you can do for it, but that's kind of the basic way of using it.
Yeah, and when you're going in and actually breaking down and looking at things that you're trying to recreate, you're going to be talking more about this, correct?
Yeah.
What you're doing here is just outlaying the tools that you're mostly using.
Yeah, I plan on talking about each of these tools a little bit more in depth, and even maybe recreating some designs with them, so you guys can kind of see the way I work and the way I problem solve inside of Photoshop.
That's the stuff that I'm trying to get to this community, is the way that you're problem solving and speeding things up.
Yeah, I think that's everyone uses Photoshop slightly differently, and like I said, there's a million ways to kind of get one thing done, but the way that I problem solve is just very focused on speed and just a few tools. I definitely don't use everything over here. I just use kind of any design that I need. So that's the text tool. Nothing groundbreaking, but it's a very useful tool when you just want to type something out. Works kind of like any other text editor. So the next thing we'll jump into is the shape tool. This is a pretty easy one to understand. It's this little hexagon, or if we right click on it, I think it's usually defaulted on the square. And this is just, your basic shapes are here. So if you right click in here, you can see the square, or a square with rounded edges, or a circle, or oval, depending on how you want to use that tool. And then the polygon tool, which has some pretty, I think I have it set to star right now. So that can be helpful as well. And again, the way you interact with changing a lot of the settings is up here at the top. So in this little gear right here, there's a star button, but if I unclick that, this will just be a five-sided shape. So lots of cool stuff you can do with that. And then
is the color changed the same way as the text?
Yes. So there's a few ways to do everything in Photoshop. To change the text for one of these, over here in this layers panel, which is, now that we have a bunch of things, you can actually see that it starts adding everything in its own layer over here. And that's where the pointer tool comes into place. Or you can hit V on your keyboard to bring this up quite a bit. But now that, if I wanted to move this square, I can't just click on it and drag it around. It's going to be clicking or moving this hexagon. You'll be wondering why. Well, that's because over here in this layers panel, this is where all these shapes live on their own layer. So if I select the star, then I can move the star around. If I select the little oval that we have, then I can move it. So to change the color on a shape like this, you can actually double click inside of the little box, and that will bring a color picker up, and then select whatever color you want to have there.
What if I want to match the color of the text?
Yeah, so say we want to use this rounded edged square. Those are both on the same layer, so we'll do this one. polygon. If I wanted to match that text again, I can double click inside of this. As soon as I move my pointer off of this color picker, it actually turns into the eyedropper tool. It will allow you to select colors from anywhere. Really nice way of just matching colors super quickly. Good?
Yeah, it seems a lot easier now when you're talking about it this way. I think the first time you showed me, I think it was a lot going on, but now seeing it for the second time, I just want to encourage people, if you're feeling as if you're missing any of this, going back and re-watching this content. And I think what Nathaniel's idea is to recreate art is going to be super impactful when you're re-watching that stuff multiple times. There's going to be pieces that you might not pick up the first time, but then going back and re-watching it, it will then solidify and be able to, you'll be able to remember it.
Yeah.
Seeing it this time, I almost feel like I can use Photoshop.
So the last tool I want to talk about before I dig into layers a little bit more is this pen tool over here. Again, there's a lot of different options up here and a couple different ways to use this tool. Mine is selected to path right now. And what this allows you to do is just outline any shape that your heart can. So I don't want to talk about layers too much right now, but I'm going to make a new layer and use the tool again. And you can see that you can just start making whatever shape that you want. This is really useful when you start bringing in like photos and want to trace something. So say you want a dog outline, you can bring in a photo of a dog and just quickly outline that and have it. And that
so
way
that you get the dog shape.
Right. That way you don't have to worry about like finding clip art online or buying, you know, pre-made designs or anything like that. Basically any shape that you can see or get a photo of and drag that into Photoshop, you can just really easily trace that, and you can like curves and all kinds of cool stuff with this pen tool, and make all of these shapes.
And you'll be showing that more with the additional videos.
Right. I'll be talking about this pen tool quite a bit. I like this pen tool and I use it. I would say
is that your go-to
daily.
tool?
I would say I probably use the text tool more, but yes, this pen tool has saved me a lot of money just because I can make my own shapes and, you know, do a bunch of creative things with it.
That would be an additional value add type of video, like seeing where Photoshop can save you money. I think that pen tool, if you did just even some simple videos of how to save yourself from buying clip art and just using the pen tool to save yourself some money, would be very interesting.
Very true. Okay, so now that we have a few things all kind of scattered around in a nonsensical way, I want to talk about the layers over here. So each one of these shapes and words have its own layer, and basically the way that this works is the things towards the bottom will be covered up by the things on top. So Steven's name is at the very bottom, so if I take these squares, which I can select by holding Control and actually clicking on them, that will bring me right to their selecting their layer. If I bring that over top, Steven's name is going to be blocked out because on this list over here, these squares are above Steven's name. If I wanted Steven's names to be above the squares, then I would just click and drag that above, and you can see that it pops up on top of these squares over here. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you ever think of the layers as something different? Like just an order? Or do you always just think of it as layers?
Yeah, I think I've been brainwashed by Adobe and Photoshop and all the other programs that I use that have layers built in, so it's always layer in my head. But I know some people think of it as like, you know, a clear, like a plastic. So like just thinking of each of these as a plastic layer on top of each other. So even though like this star doesn't have anything else around it, whatever this moves through or on top of, it's still like, you know, on top of that plastic sheet.
So thinking of it as a physical layer,
yeah,
helps you.
That helps some people. For me, like I said, I'm kind of brainwashed by Photoshop.
You just know default layer is layer and what's going to be on top of each other.
Right.
So my question is now, if you create something and there's a lot of layers, is it easier just to go to the right and select the layer to move something up top? Say my name was the very first thing that you started with and you created something and now you want my name to be on the top. Is it better just to go to the right and move that layer all the way up?
Yes, so that's kind of the only way to do it. You can select it over here, but there's no way to bring it to the front.
So the only way to move layers is off to the right?
Yes.
Okay.
as I say that, I'm like second guessing myself because I know Photoshop. I know there's probably another way of doing it. There's probably a keyboard shortcut.
There's no.
for
Oh, that's
it,
what I was going to ask you. Because with some other programs that you use the keyboard to like
Yeah.
quick click.
Inside
When we're
of
making
Photoshop,
slides, I think you have some quick keyboard where you can just click up and down, but nothing on Photoshop that you can think of.
when I'm using Photoshop, I usually this is the only way that I do it.
It's just slide it up
It's just
and
like
down on the right-hand
ingrained
side.
in me. So, hopefully, watching this is helpful for you guys. There will be more videos on this to come, and just the way that I use this tool again to problem solve, how to make designs and get things done. If this is your first introduction, hopefully I've done a good job at this, and you guys will get value out of the rest of the videos we plan on doing for Photoshop and some other art programs.
I am glad that you're doing this. It's
Trying.
something that I've been encouraging you to do, but I think you're pointing out that other people have much more in-depth videos on certain tools is a true fact. And I think you will be pointing those videos out, but I think your perspective is something that is missing in this community.
Yeah, so I guess my hope for this is to teach you guys how to take all the training that's out there and make it like personal for you and what you're trying to do. I hope by you guys just seeing the way that I work through some images and the way that I make things, it will make it clearer for you to be like, oh, I can watch training from anybody and just apply it to what I'm doing. I don't think that's something that a lot of people are doing, and so you can come up with some pretty cool and unique ways of creating t-shirt artwork that not everybody else is.
I think your simplicity way of looking at things, like you said, you're not using all of the tools. You're using some of the tools most of the time, and you've found a way to use those tools to your benefit so that you can create things. I think what you said, your personality is coming out of using these tools. I think as I watch you, that's the thing that I'm trying to get to our community. You have a very special way of looking at things. You've been in this industry for a while. You worked with other people doing marketing, doing an actual t-shirt company, and you have a very unique way of looking at things, and I want to bring that to this community. Your idea of having people point out things that they want you to recreate, I think is an amazing idea. I think this video hopefully kind of lays the groundwork for what we're attempting to show you.
Yeah, Photoshop's a really big toolbox. There's a lot of different ways of using it. Hopefully I can show you the way that I use it, and either you guys can adapt the way that I'm using it or find a way to use it. I hope so. Again, let us know below in the comments if this is helpful. I can definitely do more videos kind of in this style and explain things a little bit more in depth. But this is something, again, that Steven's been pushing me to do, and I'm happy that we've started down this road.
Yeah, and if you want to know anything about merch or just the print on demand, like, comment, subscribe. We're going to be pushing a lot more videos to YouTube and making a lot more playlists.
All right, guys. See you soon.